Um, a little bit about CERAWeek. I guess you're in Houston. This is an annual event. Kind of give us some insight into what CERAWeek means and why uh, you and maybe some of your staff are there.
Well, CERAWeek is the largest energy conference in the world. You have many of the marquee players in the energy space and many different energy sectors, whether that's traditional hydrocarbons or renewables. It's where they all come together, and it's a great opportunity to collaborate, to network. Certainly, deals are being done here. We've heard from many high-level government officials, including Secretary Kerry and Secretary Granholm from the Department of Energy, John Podesta, who is one of the environmental czars under the Biden administration. And the message here is very clear. We've got energy demands today that we need to meet, but we also have to have that eye to the future and make sure that we are all doing what we can do to engage in the energy transition when we're talking about atmospheric decarbonization initiatives. So it's an exciting time to be in the business, and certainly the Port of Corpus Christi is playing a prominent role in the discussion.
Now, of course, we all know the port has been growing. You continue to get more business, more companies coming in. Are you positioned to continue to be able to handle all of the shipping that you may be seeing in the coming years? Because if we have many more businesses, it looks like it's going to be kind of tough to handle all this, isn't it?
Well, we certainly believe that we've still got plenty of upside in the space. If you talk about the traditional energy like crude oil, while we are reaching the upper bands, we still think we've got maybe room for another 400,000 to 600,000 barrels before a new pipeline will need to be installed, pointed to Corpus Christi. Certainly at the port, the terminaling capacity that we have is sufficient to handle even more growth than that. We have 14 crude terminals, and all of them have plenty of capacity. And then when you talk about the transition initiatives like hydrogen, we're fully engaged in our ambition to become a hydrogen hub designee by the federal government. And we've got a lot of industry partners who are working with us. We have an application that will go into the Department of Energy on April 7th. And we firmly believe that now with our scope, which is not only the Corpus Christi region, but it extends out into the Permian Basin and down into the valley and down to Brownsville, we think we've got a pretty good story to tell.
And while you're at that conference, you mentioned some government officials were there. Were you able to have any kind of one-on-one talks with them? And whether you did or not, what would you like to see from them? Less regulation, quicker regulation. So once they get something in their hands, get it reviewed and looked at within 60 days, not a year or two. Are there things like that you may have talked with them about?
Yeah, Michael, it's a great question, and it's certainly a topic that has been top of mind in the discussions. We heard from Secretary Granholm and John Podesta, both of which talked about permitting and regulatory reform, which is absolutely needed and necessary if we're going to be able to execute on these large energy infrastructure projects. We believe that there may be a legislative fix, but we also believe that there are already tools available today to the federal regulators that they can use to streamline the decision process without undermining the robustness of the environmental reviews. We don't want to dilute the environmental review quality, but we certainly need to bring certainty to the market that we know when we will get to a record of decision. And unfortunately, with the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act funding, which is now called the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, we're talking about $1.2 trillion of US taxpayer money that's going to be spent over the next decade. But we didn't change anything in the regulatory review process. We cannot expect the definition of insanity to do the same things when we've got this abundance of resources that have been earmarked by the federal government. I think they got that message, and I think they're starting to recognize that more needs to be done when we talk about regulatory reform.
Industry leaders from around the world are there. Have you been able to make any contacts? Anyone interested in coming to Corpus Christi and building just like Exxon, Cheniere, and everybody else who's come in? Has that helped being able to say, well, Exxon's here, Cheniere's here?
Look, we've talked to everybody. We've talked to Exxon, we've talked to Cheniere, we've talked to our existing customers, and we've talked to some new customers. Vicky Hollub, the chairman and CEO of Oxy, was here and had some great things to say about what Oxy is doing down on the King Ranch with their direct air carbon capture initiative. But that's great for our region. So yes, we've had a lot of discussions. We saw more people in the last 4 days than we would have been able to have seen in a year, because these are not only American companies, but a lot of international multinationals from Japan, Korea, Spain, France, Germany, the UK. We were able to make connections with a lot of those folks, and everybody is truly interested in our story down in the Coastal Bend.
And I was reading through some of the agendas, and cybersecurity was on that agenda for this conference. How do y'all stand with cybersecurity right now? Do you feel comfortable with what you have in place, or does more need to be done? Because as we've seen, those cyber criminals can get in and really disrupt a network.
Yeah, look, cybersecurity is an area that we are heavily focused on. We've got full-time cybersecurity professionals on staff at the Port of Corpus Christi. And cyber threats are becoming much more sophisticated and much more frequent. So we cannot rest on our laurels. We can never be satisfied with what we're doing. We're constantly having to stay one step ahead of the bad actors. And that's something that we're just going to have to deal with, it seems, as it becomes, unfortunately, a business as usual for targets like the Port of Corpus Christi or energy companies.
And we're basically an energy port. Is there any discussions on diversifying a bit, or do you feel like the energy part of your business that's really driving it will continue to go for the next 50, 100 years?
Yeah, look, we all remember Kodak, right? And what we don't want to have is a Kodak moment. We have to continue to remain relevant, which means we always have to have an eye to the future and to what the industry is evolving as. And the same traditional energy suppliers will be the suppliers of the new, cleaner, greener energies. They've got the technology, they've got the capital to invest in research and development. They've got the transects of land and the infrastructure to distribute that energy. So we certainly see that while we are grateful for our prominence in the traditional hydrocarbon energy space, we're always going to be evolving right along with industry and right along with our customers. But to your point about new industries, we absolutely believe that with the abundance of clean energy and with the codification of a centralized carbon management solution, we think that is going to attract some other industries. We've seen fragility in the supply chain, and that's forcing manufacturers to look at other areas that they can invest in. And certainly the Coastal Bend, as we've seen of late with Tesla and with Steel Dynamics, we think it creates a wonderful opportunity for some of that downstream manufacturing investment, those job-creating investments as well.
And I've noticed that, a lot of these companies that are coming into our area, they need water, and they need lots of water. Has desal been discussed? Have you run into other communities, other ports that are looking for solutions for that? Have they talked with you about what you're doing?
So we haven't run into any other American ports with the exception of Houston. Houston was here as well. But certainly our friends at the Port of Rotterdam in the Netherlands, which is one of the largest recipients of energy that we export from the Port of Corpus Christi. We've had a lot of discussions with them this week about what they're doing and where they see the markets emerging. We share in customers. So a tremendous amount of benchmarking and a great opportunity for information exchange between us and our friends over in the European Union. I think at the end, that's what's great about having everybody come into one location, is you can get a lot done in a very concentrated period of time. And that's what we believe we've done this week here at CERAWeek.
And I'm guessing that this energy conference wraps up tomorrow. What do you hope to come away with from today and tomorrow?
Well, certainly, I like to be more informed about where the industry is going and what the viewpoints are from the captains of our industry. And we've seen folks like Darren Woods from Exxon and other Vicky Hollub, as I mentioned, others from Oxy and other industry leaders. So it's really great to hear what their views are and what their strategies are. And that's really what we want to do, is we want to make sure that we're supportive of our customer strategy, whether that's existing customers or new customers. So I think what we're going to take away is we're on a great path. We've certainly got some follow-up to do, but we think that the future is certainly bright for the coastal bend.
And at an energy conference, they may not want to speak too much about the environment, but environmentally, when is enough enough? When do we have enough plants? When do we have enough companies in our area? Is there anyone talking about that, about how you balance nature versus industry?
Well, there is never enough, for the very simple fact that mankind evolves, and we're going to evolve just like the other industries will as well. When the Port of Corpus Christi opened in 1926 and when it was formed in 1922, we were focused on the agriculture markets down in South Texas. But we very quickly shifted to the energy markets. But we also still have a lot of agriculture that moves through the Port of Corpus Christi. We've got military that moves through the Port of Corpus Christi in support of the American warfighter readiness, both at home and abroad. So we're going to continue to evolve. We're going to continue to diversify. We're going to continue to engage in large-scale economic development. That means more tax revenues for our local communities, our local governments, more infrastructure, more public safety, and certainly more environmental programs that we invest in as well. Great opportunities.
Well, thank you very much, Sean, unless you've got something else to talk about.
Thanks for having me.